Hi there folks, a little bit of a departure in the video today. We're going to have a look at this little Collins hatchet. Now my buddy Scott, the gun geek, you may know him as, he has been posting some videos on these Collins hatchets lately, and through that I found out that they were on sale at my local hardware store. So being influenced by peer pressure, I had to go get one for myself. So after the outlay of $12.49 plus tax, we have the hatchet you see in front of us. A pretty good deal, I would say. They were half price, at least at the time of filming this video. Anyway, so what we've got is a 1 1/4 pound head hatchet. Strangely enough, they call it a camp axe, but anyway, I guess same difference. Anyway, as far as stats on this thing weighs overall with the handle 1 pound 12.7 ounces or 0.813 kilograms. So fairly hefty for a hatchet. You can certainly get lighter ones with the synthetic handles, but probably not for this kind of a price. Now Collins is an old American brand, however this is not actually made in the USA. However, it's also not made in China, it's actually made in Mexico. And it has an American hickory handle, as they proudly display on the sticker. And the grain on this handle is not too bad, runs pretty well front and back. I think they had 3 to select from in the store when I went in, and this seemed to be the best grain. Although, probably not a big deal with a hatchet because you don't have enough handle length to really get a lot of force into the cutting tool, so you're probably not going to break one of these off unless you really abuse it. Somewhat unusual in that the eye, where the handle goes up, is quite large on this compared to many hatchets. Let's just measure this thing up to show you. And let's see, we were looking at about 2 1/8 inches in length for the eye, and it is about 3/4 of an inch wide. So a fairly large eye. We have got 2 wedges in here. We've got a wooden wedge running that way, and then one of the tubular type wedges that's been driven down in the middle. This one seems to be fitted up reasonably well. There's a little tiny bit of a gap there and at the front, but for something that retailed for $12.50, not bad, I would say. Nice, nice profile to the blade. We have a fairly thin cutting edge, which carries back, and then we've got this wider portion, so this should bite into wood fairly well. And if we want to use it for some light splitting, it should be pretty good for that. We have, let's just get this thing up a bit more. The head itself is, it's about 5.5 inches in depth, and the cutting edge itself is about 3 1/4 inches. There's our thickness for the axe back there. We're looking at what, 1 1/16 of an inch, I would say, the widest portion. The thing seems to be pretty well finished. There aren't really terrible sharp edges on it. You don't have to worry about it cutting the heck out of everything as far as, you know, well, obviously it's going to cut the heck out of everything at the front, but the other edges are not terribly burry or sharp. There are little tiny bits of burrs to them, but not bad. Quite usable right out of the box. The handle is, as they say, American hickory, and it's quite thick. So if we have a look at the thickness of it here, we're looking at about 1 1/8 thickness across, and this will give you some idea of the thickness of the handle further down. Of course it varies, but at its thinnest spot it's about 1 1/4 inches for the thinnest spot. We don't have a lanyard hole here at the bottom, but that's pretty easy to fix if you want it. I'm sure everybody's got a drill. We've got the usual assortment of warning things on here, you know, don't do this, don't do that, wear safety glasses, and all that good stuff. And another warning sticker on the side. and warning you about California, which everybody should be warned about California apparently. So, let's see, overall length here, I think we gave you a couple of measurements. The entire thing is 13 3/8 of an inch long, and the handled portion itself out of the head is 11 1/4 inches long. So a fairly nice size, not too big, not too small. Comes with this rubber edge guard, which is reusable, which is a nice thing. A lot of the cheap hatchets and axes come with a plastic dipped kind of edge protector, and of course once you remove those they are no good, you can't reuse them. So this is nice, it's got a reusable, seems to be a pretty heavy duty edge guard there, so that's a nice feature to have. Speaking of edges, this one wasn't perfect when I got it, it's probably still not perfect. I did touch it up a bit with a couple of stones just to put a bit of an edge on it. I am not really a believer in sharpening an edge on a hatchet or an axe to a razor kind of an edge, because there's no need for that kind of level of sharpness, and that kind of an edge just doesn't hold up in my experience, because they tend to roll over and they just don't last when you sharpen them that finely. So I prefer more of a utility edge on axes and hatchets. We'll see. I haven't actually cut anything with this yet. I figured I'd do the video on it brand spanking shiny new first before I went out and did any chopping with it. I discovered handily that I had this surplus sheath kicking around, and this is an American style sheath, and I'm pretty sure it's an authentic real one because I bought it in a dusty old surplus store a number of years ago for quite a good price. So it's an M1910 axe carrier. It's got the hanger on it and so forth, so I think this is the real deal. It's just new old stock, as they would say. There was a bin of these, and I probably should have bought a few of them, but this hatchet fits nicely in the axe carrier, so not a bad fit at all. You can put the blade guard on it. It still fits inside. Didn't seem to be this much of a struggle the last time. There we go. All right, so it does fit in one of these canvas sheaths, so that's kind of nice. Keeps everything protected even more. So good to have everything protected. You can throw it in a pack, or lash it to a pack, or you could even hang it off a belt if you had the appropriate type of belt, or stick it on a backpack or whatever. But I kind of like the fact that that works so well. In fact, I might see if I can find another one of these in that old surplus store if I'm ever near it again. Anyway, not a whole lot more to say on this thing other than, the handle is coated with probably a polyurethane or a varnish or something, which of course is sort of a dubious kind of a coating to have on a wood-handled tool. I think a lot of guys will strip this off, and that's probably what I will do, but we'll worry about that in another video. Perhaps we'll take that finish off and put on an oil finish, which is kind of a better setup for one of these things anyway. Let's take this out and see how it cuts. Well, I was going to take some brush out of this pile to use as a demonstration, but I guess I won't be now, since I discovered some little bird has made it his residence, or her residence. Anyway, guess we'll leave these fellows alone. Alright, here we are outside with all the stickers removed. I apologize for any noise, background noise, because there is a road nearby, and there's a lot of farm machinery, and there's also a lot of traffic today since it's a holiday. Anyway, let's try this thing out on some of the smaller type material one might normally deal with when you're out camping. So, and there's going to be wind noise too, apparently. Anyway, let's just hack up some smaller stuff here into the usual campfire-y starter type stuff. Keeping in mind that a hatchet is probably one of the most dangerous hand tools you can have because it is close to where you are standing, so it's quite easy to injure yourself with a hatchet. So keep that in mind. You don't want to use a hatchet if you're intoxicated or tired or any of that stuff. Many moons ago, I remember getting a lecture from a school teacher. We used to have a very good school teacher who did our, they called it conservation program, and part of that was some woodscraft stuff. Probably the most enjoyable thing that I remember doing in high school. So he was big on warning us about the dangers of hatchets. Not the most talented person around with a hatchet apparently at the moment, but I better not talk too much about safety or I'll end up chopping my arm off. Seems to cut good. This is just branches that were cleaned up around my yard, and I figured we'll cut them up into smaller pieces. They'll be handy for a campfire. I got a campfire pit in the backyard, so some old dry spruce. That's pretty well. Just for the sake of argument, we'll try a bigger piece of material here. One would normally not be chopping on anything this small. As in short, because, well, you just wouldn't be. Yeah, it seems to take pretty good pieces off. Making tent pegs. Feels pretty good. Well, after a very minimal amount of use, I would have to say that that seems like a $12.50 well spent. It certainly cuts good when you put an edge on it. My own lack of practice comes into play more than the hatchet does, but I'd say that's certainly a hand tool that's well worth picking up. and maybe we'll look at this in another video sometime. I might redo the handle, remove the varnish or varathane off the handle, and put an oil finish on it. But anyway, that's probably enough for now. So thanks for watching, guys.